My wife and I have been together for 12 years since she was quite young, and we've watched each other grow. However, as time passed, I began to realize that my trust in her was misplaced. Despite her daily work routine, I never questioned her loyalty to our relationship, but it turned out that she had been deceiving me all along. She had become an expert con artist, and I was the foolish husband who trusted her blindly. The only noticeable change I saw was that she started styling her hair really well before her sister revealed the truth to me. She expressed feeling guilty for betraying her sister's trust, but she couldn't simply stand by and watch me be cheated on. The revelation hit me hard, causing me to collapse on the floor in shock. My reaction was not an attempt to be dramatic. I had simply lost control of myself. When I asked her how she found out, she explained that my wife had confided in her about being torn over starting a secret relationship with the delivery guy she interacted with on a daily basis. As the person in charge of receiving packages for our business, she took advantage of the opportunity to lock the door and engage in some extramarital fun with him. The news hit me so hard that I had to mute the phone and rush to the kitchen sink to throw up. As much as I appreciated her honesty, I couldn't help but hope that it was all just a nightmare. What made matters worse was discovering that my wife had saved her lover's number under the name Lisa in her phone. Despite the difficult situation with her sister, I thanked her for sharing the truth with me. I acknowledged that what my wife had done was completely wrong, and that she didn't deserve to continue living happily with me in our home. That night, I guessed my wife's passcode and read her messages with Lisa. The evidence was damning, but without her sister's help, I might never have known for certain that my wife had been unfaithful. In my quest to obtain a confession, I decided to call the other man involved in my wife's infidelity. When he answered the phone, he sounded half asleep and remained silent as I introduced myself. I pleaded with him not to hang up, assuring him that I was calling man to man and that I had something important to tell him. Despite lacking concrete proof, I had a strong suspicion that he and my wife had been having an affair while on the job. Initially, he denied it multiple times, but I insisted that it was better to be safe than sorry and that I needed to share the information I had with him. I then revealed to him that my wife was HIV positive, and I had recently discovered that I had contracted the virus as well. After a brief silence, the man began to lose his composure as I advised him to get tested. He kept repeating, "Oh my God," in a panicked voice, his tone cracking with emotion. When I asked if he had used protection during his encounters with my wife, he admitted that he had not. This was the confession I needed to confirm my suspicions. I expressed my apologies to him as he continued to freak out, eventually breaking down in tears. However, I then revealed that it was just a ruse to get him to confess to the affair. With that, I hung up the phone and proceeded to roll my wife off the mattress. My wife woke up in a state of anger and confusion, demanding to know what was happening. I informed her that she needed to leave the house. However, it was not an easy task to get her to comply. Even after playing the recorded admission from the other man, she remained stubborn and claimed that she had a right to live in the house. I reminded her that she only had that right as my wife, and since she was no longer that to me, she had to leave. Despite my efforts, she became very dramatic and called the police. The authorities acted as mediators, but ultimately could not determine who should leave since we were both residents of the home. One of the police officers suggested that my wife could stay with App, which I found amusing. When she contacted App, he refused to see her again because he was terrified of contracting HIV and needed time to recover. I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. My wife informed the officer that she could not stay with AP, and out of compassion, I offered to stay at my uncle's house until the divorce was finalized. This gave her time to pack her belongings and make arrangements for her next living situation, without being able to communicate with me. She harbored animosity towards her sister, assuming that her sister had informed me to check her messages. However, it was fortunate that her sister was the only one available to offer her a place to stay when she needed it. They lived together in close quarters, but her sister handled the situation with grace and generosity. Despite her negative feelings towards her sister, she remained committed to supporting her until she could stand on her own 2 feet again and adjust her mindset. At times, I wondered if I had made a mistake in marrying the wrong sister. Eventually, my ex departed from both our lives, and I was able to reclaim my house. It's possible that I had a casual connection with her sister, chatting about our lives and sharing updates for fun. Now that the ordeal is over, I feel a sense of relief, but it will take me some time to come to terms with the amount of time I invested in the relationship, only to be betrayed by my partner's infidelity with a stranger. Fortunately, we didn't have any children together. I'm grateful that her sister reached out to inform me of what was happening, enabling me to discover the truth when I did. Despite the relationship ending in devastation after a long duration, I'm certain that I've gained valuable life lessons from it. You've learned the art of coexisting with another person by communicating and compromising effectively. You also understand the significance of having an open phone policy and using it casually. It's reasonable to ask your partner to use their phone at random times and take the chance to look at their messages without fear of getting caught. As a committed couple, you have every right to examine the conversations they're having with anyone, as there should be nothing to hide in a healthy relationship. This is also a prime example of why it's crucial to practice safe sex when engaging in sexual activities with new partners. Thank you for sharing your experience. Let's move on to the second story for today. In my case, my wife and I were both active on Instagram. While I used to post pictures of both of us, my wife mainly posted selfies that were focused on herself, not us as a couple. Though I didn't appreciate it, I refused to become a controlling spouse. I trusted her and respected her individuality. Although she sometimes came home late from work, I never once suspected her of being unfaithful. She kept me informed of her work and even sent me selfies of herself at her workplace. Unbeknownst to me, those pictures were taken at a different time and sent when my wife needed me to believe her lies. We had been married for 6 years before I uncovered her infidelity. At the time, my wife, who was 31, claimed that she was working late to pass the time. Meanwhile, I, at 32, decided to check Instagram. As I scrolled through my wife's selfies, I noticed one person who frequently commented and was overly kind to her. I clicked on his profile and was taken aback to see photos of him with my wife, both dressed up and looking flashy. It was evident that she was not wearing her usual work attire. I stumbled upon a picture on Instagram that read, "Happy 3 months." I was in disbelief as my wife was out with the guy in the photo at that moment. She appeared uneasy in the picture, almost as if she didn't want him to take it. Perhaps she had a hunch that I would see it later while I waited for her to return home. He looked oblivious to her discomfort. My hands shook as I realized they had been seeing each other for 3 months already. To add to my shock, the guy in the picture was a police officer, as indicated by other photos he had posted. What shocked me even more was seeing my wife in a picture with his kids. She had actually met them. She had always been adamant about not wanting to have kids, yet she was willing to meet his. It was all so overwhelming, and I felt scared and lost. I couldn't believe I didn't know who she truly was. I called her immediately, and she answered, trying to act as if everything was normal and that she was leaving work and heading to her car. I told her not to play with my emotions and to come clean with the truth. I heard her gasping for air as though she had been hit in the stomach. My accusation brought her back to reality. She struggled to speak as she asked me what I meant. I explained that I had seen App's picture on Instagram and wanted to wish her a happy 3-month anniversary. I also mentioned that it was good that my wife had gotten a head start in starting a new relationship since our 6-year marriage was over. When my wife returned home, a huge fight broke out between us. I was surprised that she had the nerve to argue with me about whether or not she deserved forgiveness. After discovering that she had been involved in a sexual relationship with App for the past 3 months, she attempted to argue with me in an effort to persuade me that she deserved forgiveness. However, App suddenly arrived, having followed her home. He demanded to know who I was and what she was doing. I explained to him that I was her husband of 6 years and he was her App. Despite her attempts to get him to leave with her, he refused. He asked her if I was her husband, to which she replied that I was not anymore. App then pulled away from her and questioned if she was cheating on him with me. She denied this, saying that she was actually cheating on me with him. He was both confused and angry, and he made it clear that she was cut out of his life and that he didn't want to hear from her again. I echoed his sentiment and thanked him for dumping her with me, because someone who cheats like her doesn't deserve to have a home with a man after sleeping around as she did. She apologized, but also claimed that she couldn't help having feelings for both of us. The more she spoke, the more she sounded like an immature girl who didn't understand the gravity of a serious relationship. It was hard to believe that she hadn't cheated on me sooner. I refused to let her in and locked her out. She then attempted to stay with App, but he was wise enough to deny her entry into his home. It's possible that she had to settle for staying with a relative whom she didn't particularly like, as she appeared miserable during her court hearing. As a result of her actions, she was ghosted by the men she had hurt, and her living situation made it difficult for her to pursue a dating life. In response, I expressed that it was fortunate that I discovered the affair when I did. Although it was devastating and unfair that my wife of 6 years had cheated on me, I still had the opportunity to start anew. I'm thankful that you were on Instagram and took the initiative to investigate. Your wife attempted to engage in 2 romantic relationships simultaneously, even claiming to love both individuals. I'm relieved that her infidelity didn't go unnoticed for too long. It's natural for 2 individuals in a romantic relationship to be open and honest with each other, without keeping any secrets. As humans, we tend to be monogamous and possessive when it comes to love. We desire to have a singular, devoted partner. I'm sorry that your wife wasn't capable of fulfilling the expectations you had for your relationship with her. It seems that her actions forced her to live outside of her comfort zone, and unfortunately, that's the least she deserved. Moving forward, I hope she learns to take responsibility for her actions and understand the ripple effect they can have. It's important to be mindful of our choices and actions, and to act with respect towards others. As you move forward, I encourage you to proceed with caution and wisdom in order to protect the hearts of those you love. I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.